Welcome back to In Pursuit of. I'm continuing my conversation with Manisha Gupta, founder and CEO of Startup. So, Manisha, welcome back.
Thank you.
We will continue our conversation. Tell me, you were a journalist when you started off and you grew up in Calcutta. How has that shaped your work at this moment?
In every possible way, because I grew up in Kolkata in a at a time when it was really at the height of culture. We saw politics ruling every part of our lives. It was part of our discourse. We were really all about the intellect. It was also a city where feminists were sort of very visible in very many ways. So that was the side of Kolkata that just really shaped me significantly. But there was another side of Kolkata that shaped me, of my life growing up in a very patriarchal, conservative business family from North India. I'm the fifth generation entrepreneur, and of course, not fifth generation social entrepreneur. But just the contrast, right, of deep patriarchy in the family where I was growing up, and then I would step out into my school, college, and every other socialization space, which was replete with ideas of democracy, of communism, of feminism. And that push and pull really shaped me in every possible way. So, I lost my father when I was 11. And in that family, immediately after the loss of my father, I just saw how me and my mother and my two brothers slowly and systematically started getting stripped of all citizenship. Immediate, what should I say, denial of money, to space, to opportunities. We just really very quickly became the unseen unit of the family. Not to say that, there wasn't a roof on our heads, there wasn't food, not to say that we were denied education, but we went unseen. We were discriminated. We were, the lesser unit compared to, the other units where my uncles and aunts and my cousins, we could see they had very many more privilege. So though I still feel that, I came from a place of privilege, but the whole coexistence of deep discrimination and violence in spaces of privilege was something that I have felt, and that has been part of my childhood. It also actually fueled resilience because of how our mother brought us up. Right. She was very clear that every day we would wake up, we would live a life of dignity, we would live a life of dreams, and I think pretty much the pathway that she showed us and she spoke about, she reminded us every day in spoken and unspoken ways, was that you will be the controller of your destiny, and the way to move forward is going to be through hard work. So there was this microcosm, this part of my life, and then I would step out and I would meet, my friends in school whose mothers were working, their sisters were traveling abroad to study. So, and there was, a lot of feminism in how the choices they could experience, that they could exercise. And then, of course, I did find my way looking for answers into some of the most exciting women's rights organizations in the city. I started volunteering with them. In this whole journey, what became very clear was that I would have to leave my house for sure. It became very clear to me as a young person who was 16 years old, it was very clear to me that for me to live a life of agency, to live a big life where I would be independent, I would have to leave my house. The trajectory of the conservative North Indian family, where every woman got married into an arranged marriage at the age of 18 or 19, was not going to be my life. Yes. I sort of really started working as a freelancer. in media houses, so I worked in the Anand Bazar Patrika group as a summer intern. But then, that kind of led me to sort of be a very, very active, very young freelance journalist. But then, very early at that time on, I did realize that journalism was probably not the space for me. So I, really decided that it would be in a nonprofit world. This part of my identity completely hidden and shielded from my family. Because if they had any inkling कि ये जर्नलिज्म भी कर रही है और ये वॉलंटियर भी कर रही है, तो सारे दरवाजे बंद होने वाले थे.
Seriously.
Which eventually happened. So, after college, at the age of 21, then, the day after I gave my university exam, I was told that an alliance had been fixed for me, and I was going to get married to this person from Kanpur. That was the first time when I really said, no, I am not going to get married. Now, this was the first time, I think, in my entire family that any young woman had ever said no to an arranged marriage alliance.
Must have taken a lot of courage.
When you are faced with a life of choice and a life of no choice, it takes very little courage to choose.
No, I think it still does.
Well, thank you. But
I think it's about knowing what you want.
Yeah, I think I had that clarity thanks to so many feminist friends, mentors. The world outside can be quite exciting. But back to that day when I told my grandfather that I was not going to accept this alliance, he just flew into a rage.
All hell broke loose.
There was violence and I was put under house arrest.
Really? Very dramatic, I must say.
Very dramatic. And it was very Hindi film script like, I have to say. But, my friends found out. And then they conspired a complex, strategy almost to free me. And before I knew, news had reached the head of the school and the administrator of the school. A phone call came from, I think, Mr. B.K. Birla to my grandfather saying, what is your granddaughter doing? And can you then just let her come to school to teach just as a young teacher? And so one day I was in my room in house arrest and the door opened and I stepped out. I remember that day how my legs were trembling. And I asked myself, will I be able to catch a bus and travel for 2 kilometers and get off at the correct bus stop? And, this had just happened within like a couple of months of my being under house arrest. And can you imagine then, when young women and girls go through years of violence, how that completely shatters their confidence. So that's a whole story. Of course, when I went to school, the principal said, this was just a ploy to get you out.
Wow.
And now you go get a job and we'll see what happens.
My goodness.
Yeah.
That's so filmy, really.
Isn't it?
It is.
This happened 30 years ago. And that's when I really stepped into, quite by serendipity, into a beautiful small office of Ashoka Innovators for the public. And that's how my journey in social entrepreneurship started. So you can tell that pretty much, right? The universe conspired to take me to this space, and I just followed the call of the universe.
Amazing. Wow. I mean, at that time, I'm just thinking that, how important it is to have the support of family to do what we want to do. What is that advice you would give to entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, and especially women social entrepreneurs?
Yeah. This is an advice that I would have also liked to give myself when I was starting up. As women entrepreneurs, we should show up completely confident in our skin. because we lead differently. We do business differently. We do business in a relationships driven way. We do business by fostering friendships. We do business in a collaborative way. We do business by learning from each other. I had ill fated conversations with investors. Every time I would say, well, I would love to hear from you of what you have to say about my idea. They would tell me, where's your confidence? You should know what's best for you, right? So if they found my language or my body language, sort of leaning in to learn and understand rather than to,
Say
step
and
back and,
state.
and state it up and say, I'm going to change the world, you weren't that investable entrepreneur. I think as women entrepreneurs, your business plan need not be a marvelous plan, which is all about the story of scale. Your business plan could be about depth. Your business plan could be about growth. You are, in charge of your business plan. If investors and partners and other stakeholders don't buy it, they will eventually buy it. All of us as entrepreneurs, the one thing that we really need to do is show up every day with integrity and authenticity. How do you do it every day with grace with a team that may not always agree with you?
Right.
Or how do you do it with grace with folks where there isn't a value alignment? How do you do it with grace when there is conflict and, it's like eating your insides? How do you do it with grace when the cash flows are drying up? But the one thing that we women entrepreneurs don't do enough of is really talk about ourselves, put ourselves out there, make a big deal about ourselves. At all points of time, we want to take everybody and take everybody's opinions into consideration. So women entrepreneurs also need to be badass. I don't know if this word is allowed in your show.
It
So
is.
they really need to be boss ladies and they really need to own it.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. Thanks. So, one last question, Manisha, that what is that one thing you wish would change in the social sector landscape in India?
The one thing that I would want to see changed very quickly in the social sector landscape of India is for grassroots leaders and grassroots women leaders to take over every seminar, every conference, every speaking engagement that we have, because they have a lot to tell us, a lot to teach us about democracy and development, which we are not listening to.
That's really a new one. It's been a very wonderful conversation, and I am quite taken aback by your personal story. Very, very dramatic. And I can see why you lean towards women in entrepreneurs and why you lean towards the social sector also. I guess, it's also to do with that there is people working in the sector proactively work towards bringing change in their own lives and other people's lives, which is quite amazing. So thank you for being on our show.
Thank you for this opportunity. I've had such a wonderful time, and there's something about you that got me to share so much. And these are conversations we really don't have in the sector. So thank you so much for anchoring them.
My absolute pleasure, Manisha. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Keep watching and do remember to subscribe to In Pursuit of.